My wife was out with her friends the night I realized I didn't love her anymore. She'd left hours earlier, dressed in that green dress she never wore around me. Not since before the third miscarriage. I was sitting on the couch, eating leftover pizza straight from the box, when it hit me. I wasn't waiting up for her. I wasn't even mad. I was just done. My name's Cooper. I'm 33. I live, or used to live, in Aurora, Colorado. This story's about how my wife went on a solo trip and came back to find I was gone for good. We got married right after college. She was my high school crush, and I chased her through 2 years of bad timing before she finally gave me a shot. Once we got serious, we didn't waste time. We tied the knot after graduation and moved into a rental with a fenced yard, telling everyone we were saving for our forever home. Back then, it felt like we had a plan. Job, house, kids, barbecues with friends, it was all lined up. A year in, we started trying for a baby. I remember the first time she told me she was pregnant. She held the test out with both hands, shaking. We sat on the bathroom floor laughing and crying at the same time. That joy lasted 6 weeks. The miscarriage blindsided us. But we didn't give up. The second loss came 8 months later. That one left a dent, but we still had hope. By the third, everything cracked open. She shut down, little by little. First the bedtime talk stopped. Then the silly routines we used to have, making pancakes on Sundays, playing dumb board games with wine. Those just disappeared. She stopped bringing up kids altogether. I kept trying. I told myself she just needed space, or time, or both. I figured she was grieving differently, that maybe she'd bounce back if I just stayed steady, held the line. But holding on while someone else is letting go feels like pulling an anchor up alone. She started smiling less. Her hugs turned into side pats. No more lingering kisses. No more I miss you texts. It was like she was slipping behind a wall I couldn't break through. I didn't want to admit it then, but looking back now, it was already over. We were still sleeping in the same bed, but we were miles apart. And the cracks? They'd been forming long before either of us had the guts to say it out loud. After the silence set in, she started going out more. At first, it was just once in a while, girls' nights or dinner plans she swore had been on the calendar for weeks. Then it turned into weekends away, a spa retreat in Vail, a bachelorette trip in Scottsdale for some coworker I'd never met, a late movie with Megan and Lacey that started at 8:30 on a Tuesday. None of it included me. I kept giving her the benefit of the doubt. I told myself she was just trying to feel normal again, trying to have a life outside of pain. I stayed hopeful, thinking maybe she just needed space to breathe. But the silence between us didn't get any better. It got heavier. It filled the kitchen when we made coffee side by side. It sat between us on the couch like a third person we didn't acknowledge. One night, I asked her if we could talk. She looked up from her phone and said, "About what?" In that clipped tone she'd started using. I said, "About us." Her eyes rolled so hard I thought she'd fall off the stool. "I'm tired, Coop. Can it wait?" It always waited. And then it never happened. I tried different angles. I set up a reservation at this Italian place we used to love. She canceled the day of, said she forgot she already had plans with Lacey. Another time, I asked if she'd be open to counseling. Her face tightened. "Why? So I can pay someone to tell me I'm broken?" I said, "No, so we can have a real conversation without one of us shutting down." She grabbed her purse. "You say that like I'm the only one shutting down." She was gone before I could answer. I even tried giving her more space, thinking maybe that was the key. I backed off, gave her quiet when she wanted it. But that just turned into more weekends of her recharging without me. At one point, I asked if she wanted me to come along for one of her nights out. She blinked like I'd spoken a foreign language. "It's just the girls' co-op. You wouldn't have fun." "I'm not asking to crash it. I'm asking if you want me there." She looked at me, then looked away. "You don't have to force anything." I wasn't forcing. I was grasping. There's a difference. I even started hanging out with her friends when I could. Megan was always polite, but tight-lipped. Lacey was worse. Fake laughs, fake compliments, but always a loaded glance when my wife wasn't looking. Like I was the dead weight in the room. Like I was the reason she didn't smile anymore. They didn't say it outright, but they didn't have to. I got the message loud and clear. I was the anchor. She was the balloon trying to float away. The worst part was, I still loved her. I still wanted her to want me back. But every time I reached out, she recoiled. Every conversation turned into a landmine. If I asked how her day was, she gave me one-word answers. If I tried to tell her about mine, she'd nod without listening, then disappear into the bedroom with her AirPods in. Our house didn't feel like a home anymore. It felt like an Airbnb with bad lighting and no Wi-Fi. Functional, temporary, cold. I started sleeping on the couch some nights, telling her it was because of her snoring, but really, I just didn't want to feel that space between us in bed. She didn't fight me on it. That said everything. I used to think love could survive anything. Turns out, it can't survive indifference. And indifference had taken up permanent residence in our living room. Even with everything falling apart behind closed doors, we still managed to look normal when it counted. Her fake smile was damn near flawless. Birthdays, holidays, dinner with my parents. She played the part like she'd never skipped a beat. Arm around mine. Laughter at the right jokes. She even leaned her head on my shoulder at Thanksgiving like we were still 17 and in love. But the second the front door shut behind us, gone. Just cold silence and the sound of heels clicking toward the bedroom. The car rides were the worst. Dead air between us while the radio filled in the gaps. I'd glance over sometimes, just to see if she was thinking what I was thinking. But she always had her phone in her hand, scrolling like I wasn't even there. I felt like a damn actor in my own life, some hollow version of myself, walking through a script I didn't write. Christmas came around, and I thought maybe, just maybe, I'd break through for a second. She'd pointed out this necklace in a shop window back in October. Rose gold, simple chain, nothing flashy. She said it reminded her of her mom's. I bought it, wrapped it in the kind of box you keep, not the cheap paper stuff. Put it under the tree and waited for her reaction like a dog begging for scraps. She opened it, smiled thinly, said, "Oh, that's nice," and moved on to the next gift without even trying it on. That necklace sat on the dresser for weeks. Never touched, never mentioned again. One night, I picked it up, put it back in the box, and shoved it in the top drawer of my nightstand like it never happened. The quiet hurt worse than if she'd thrown it back at me. At least then I'd know she felt something. She didn't even pretend anymore. That was the shift. Before, there was effort. Even during the worst of it, we used to pretend for each other. But now, it was all external. The show was for everyone else. Inside the house, it was just a void. Eventually, I stopped trying too. I used to pick up her favorite snacks without her asking. I used to clean the kitchen before she got home from work. I stopped doing those things. And she didn't notice. Or maybe she did, and just didn't care. We stopped texting during the day. No more, "Hey, how's your morning?" Or "Want me to pick up dinner?" It was all logistics. Bills. Groceries. "You're out of toothpaste" kind of crap. I knew we were faking it. The scary part was how good we got at it. One night, we had my sister over for dinner. My wife laughed at one of her jokes and reached for my hand under the table. I flinched. Not because I was mad, because I wasn't ready for the touch. I'd gotten used to being untouched. After my sister left, I asked her, "Why do we still do this?" She looked confused. "Do what?" "This. Pretend we're fine when we're not." She didn't answer, just went upstairs, closed the door behind her. I stood in the kitchen for a long time that night, staring at 2 half-drunk glasses of wine on the counter. It was like we were ghosts in our own lives. And the truth hit me right then. I wasn't trying to impress her anymore. Because deep down, I knew I'd already lost her. After that night, things didn't explode, they just faded even more. We didn't argue, didn't yell. We just slipped into separate rhythms like 2 people renting space under the same roof. She claimed the living room most nights, watching reality shows on low volume while texting. I stayed in the garage, tinkering with old tools I didn't really need, pretending I had a project to finish. We became experts at avoidance. I'd wake up before her, leave for work without saying goodbye. By the time I came home, she'd be gone or locked in the bedroom with the door cracked just enough to remind me it wasn't really closed, but not open either. Somewhere in between, like everything else. Our conversations were mostly post-it notes on the fridge. "You paid the electric, right? We're out of dog food. Rent's due Friday." If it wasn't a sticky note, it was a cold text. Practical, efficient, emotionless. We never even signed our names. I started volunteering for more hours at work. Claimed extra shifts. Stayed late under the excuse of helping with onboarding or fixing back-end systems no one really cared about. No one questioned it. Not even her. Some nights I'd drive around for an hour before going home, stopping for gas I didn't need, sitting in grocery store parking lots scrolling through nothing. I just didn't want to walk through that door and feel invisible again. She, on the other hand, Started coming home later and later. Sometimes I'd hear the front door open after midnight. No explanation. No apology. She'd take off her shoes quietly, go straight to bed, and I wouldn't even get a glance. I remember one Saturday morning. I was making coffee, and she walked in wearing a hoodie I didn't recognize. I said, "Hey." She nodded and opened the fridge. That was it. That was our big weekend exchange. Weekends turned into silent negotiations. I stayed out of the way while she took over the house. She binge-watched whatever show she was into, curled up under a blanket I'd bought her last Christmas, the one thing she still used from me. I stayed in the garage, set up a space heater, bought a Bluetooth speaker, made that place my refuge, filled it with cheap beer, old photos, and a chair that didn't match anything in the house. It wasn't hostile. That's what made it harder to explain. There were no slammed doors or screaming matches. Just coldness. A quiet kind of distance that numbed everything. Sometimes I thought maybe she was waiting for me to say something, to bring up separation, to ask her what we were even doing anymore. But I didn't. And she didn't either. We just coexisted. Like strangers who shared a mailbox. I got used to it. That's the part that still bothers me. I adjusted to the emptiness. Built a routine around the silence. Learned to breathe in it like secondhand smoke. One night, I passed her in the hallway. She was brushing her hair. I was heading to the garage. We made eye contact for maybe half a second. Long enough to recognize that we were both still there, but not really present. And then we kept walking. Right past each other. Like nothing needed to be said. It was a Tuesday when I found the note. I'd come home from work, same as usual. Keys on the hook, shoes off by the door. The house was quiet. Too quiet, even for us. No hum of the TV, no footsteps overhead, no light under the bedroom door. Then I saw it. A folded piece of paper sitting dead center on the kitchen counter, like it had been placed there with purpose. My name was written on the front in her handwriting. Neat, careful, like she'd taken her time. I opened it. I've gone on a solo trip for a little while. I need time to think. Please don't call me. I'll reach out when I'm ready. I just need space. No location. No return date. No mention of anything that mattered. I read it twice, then a third time. My hands started shaking, but I wasn't mad. I wasn't even sad. I sat down at the kitchen table, held that little piece of paper, and laughed. Not because it was funny, because of how completely insane it was that after all that silence, this was how she chose to communicate. She just left. Like we were co-workers, and she was taking a personal day. I sat there for an hour, staring at nothing. The clock ticked. The fridge buzzed. The note stayed in my hand. I didn't even eat dinner that night. Just cracked a beer and stood out in the garage with the door halfway open, watching the streetlights flicker. I stayed out there until the beer went warm, then went inside and laid in bed staring at the ceiling like it owed me answers. I didn't sleep. It wasn't until about 4 in the morning that it really hit me. This marriage had been dead for a long time. She just finally had the guts to put it in writing. And with that one page, she gave me the permission I didn't know I needed. By morning, I'd made my decision. She wanted space? Fine. She could have it. Just not the kind she expected. I called in sick to work and spent the next 3 hours researching apartments. Craigslist, Zillow, Facebook Marketplace. I didn't care. I just needed a place with a door that was mine and a key she didn't have. I opened a new browser tab and searched Divorce Lawyers, Aurora, Colorado. Made a list of 5. Picked the one with the cleanest website and booked a consultation for Friday. No fight. No drama. Just action. I wasn't interested in dragging things out. She left to figure things out. I already had. The apartment hunt was rough. I saw 5 places in 2 days. One smelled like mold. One had a neighbor chain smoking on the porch at 10 in the morning, and one had carpet that looked like it came out of a crime scene. But by the second week, I found a 1-bedroom across town that didn't make my skin crawl. Ground floor, decent light, small kitchen. Nothing special, but it was mine. Signed the lease that same day. The lawyer was quick. Said it'd be simple. No kids, no mortgage, no shared bank accounts. Clean break, he called it. I nodded and told him to file the paperwork as soon as possible. Then I started packing. Quietly. Intentionally. A couple boxes each night. I did it room by room, never all at once. Didn't want to stir up any questions in case she came home early from her little soul-searching vacation. It was strange how little in the house was actually mine. Most of the furniture had been picked out by her. Half the artwork came from her sister's Etsy phase. The throw pillows, the dishes, the bedroom curtains. All hers. What I took fit into a sedan and 2 Rubbermaid bins. Clothes. Tools. My records. A couple old books she never touched. That was about it. I spent most of that time in the garage. Funny how that place, cold, dusty, cluttered, ended up feeling more like home than the house ever did. That garage had been my escape when everything else inside felt like walking on glass. I'd sit out there with a beer and a half-broken speaker, watching the hours disappear. I had a small folding chair, a shelf full of tools I barely used, and a mini fridge with 2 beers left. I left the beers. I didn't want to take anything from that house that felt shared. No wedding photos, no anniversary gifts, no dumb souvenirs from road trips we barely enjoyed. All of that stayed. I didn't even look at them long enough to get sentimental. One by one, I moved boxes to my car over the course of 3 nights. Parked down the street, just in case any nosy neighbor decided to get curious. By the final night, all that was left was the key. I walked back in, looked around once. Living room dark, kitchen spotless, the same silence hanging in the air that I'd lived with for too long. I set the key on the counter, right next to the note she'd left me. Didn't leave a message. Didn't say goodbye. Just turned around, locked the door behind me, and walked out. 3 days after I walked out, she came back. I don't know what she expected to find. Maybe the same cold silence. Maybe me in the garage like always. But instead, she walked into an empty house with no trace of me. Just the furniture, the fridge magnets, and a process server waiting to hand her a manila envelope. She called me that night. My phone buzzed around 9. I was lying on the couch of my new place, watching TV I actually liked, feet up, beer in hand. I stared at the screen for a few seconds before I answered. "Hey," she said, light, like we were old friends catching up. So surprised, right? I didn't say anything. She kept going. "I'm back. The trip was actually good for me. I feel like I finally got out of my own head. I want to talk. I think we can reconnect, if we just..." Then she paused, just long enough to flip the switch. I came home to divorce papers. Cooper. What the hell? Her tone snapped sharp. The fake cheer dropped. "I thought we were just taking space," she said. "We were," I told her. "You took yours. I took mine. That's not the same thing. It is when space turns into silence that lasts 2 years." She didn't respond right away. I kept going. I didn't leave out of spite. I'm not angry. I'm just tired. I spent the last month finally feeling what it's like to breathe. And that made it clear. I've been holding my breath for way too long. "So you just moved out?" "Yeah. You could have waited for me to come back," she said, quieter now. "We could have talked. Talked like we've been talking? Notes about groceries? Avoiding each other around corners? That's not fair. No, what's not fair is pretending that silence is still love. We stopped being anything a long time ago. You just didn't want to be the first one to say it." Her voice dropped again. "You blindsided me. You left without a word. That was different. Was it?" She didn't answer. I let the silence sit. Then I said, "Look, I didn't do this to punish you. I did it because I don't want to live like strangers anymore. I don't want to fake smiles at dinners or sleep in the same bed and feel alone." "You really filed?" "I really filed." I heard her exhale through the phone. A long, shaky breath. "You could have at least waited till we talked," she said again. "No, I've waited long enough." She was quiet again. "Anything else?" I asked. "No," she said. Then softer, "Not right now." We hung up. I stared at the blank TV screen for a while after that. Not sad. Not relieved. Just still. A few hours after that call, my phone buzzed again. It was a long text from her, longer than anything she'd sent me in the past year. She said she'd been thinking that maybe we shouldn't rush into anything final. That counseling could help. Or maybe we just needed a proper break. Time apart, but not like this. She said she didn't realize how much we'd let slide. That she missed what we used to be. For a second, I almost responded. It was the first time in years she'd shown even a sliver of interest in us. Not just going through motions or keeping up appearances, but actually admitting something was broken. I stared at that message for 10 minutes straight. But then I remembered all the nights I'd lay in bed beside her, wide awake, while she rolled to the other side without a word. I remembered every one-word answer to "How was your day?" Every stiff smile at family dinners. Every time she laughed with friends and then shut down as soon as we got in the car. All the times I tried to hold her hand, and she pulled away like it made her uncomfortable. I left the message on read. She'd already said everything she needed to, with her actions. She followed up the next day. Just a short message this time. Can we talk in person? I didn't answer. Then her sister called. I let it ring out. Then Megan texted me. She's not doing well. Just hear her out. Still nothing. Because here's the truth. She had years to talk. To try. To care. I spent 2 years dragging this relationship behind me like dead weight, hoping she'd turn around. And she only started caring the second I stopped. We'd had the real conversation already. She just didn't like that I was the one who said it out loud. 3 days later, Lacey messaged me on Instagram. Something short and passive-aggressive. She's still your wife, you know. Yeah, I knew. That was the problem. I blocked her. The outreach stopped after that. No more messages. No more third-party guilt trips. Just silence again. But this time, it felt different. Because now it was mine. Colorado had a mandatory cooling-off period, 91 days, to be exact. Didn't matter if both people agreed. The state made you wait, like they wanted to give you one last shot to change your mind. She didn't contest anything. No calls. No lawyers. No back and forth over who got what. She signed the documents and sent them back within a week. After all that pretending, all that distance, the ending came fast and clean. I settled into my new place. Got used to the creaky floors, the too small kitchen, the bathroom light that flickered if you ran the shower too long. It wasn't much, but it felt more like home than our house ever did. I stopped tiptoeing. That was the first thing I noticed. I didn't have to check someone's mood before speaking. Didn't have to hold my breath when I walked in the door, wondering if I was welcome in my own living room. The silence I had now wasn't cold. It was peaceful. I picked up my old hobbies again, small stuff. Playing guitar badly. Going on long drives with no real destination. Watching sports without having to fight for the remote or justify how I spent my time. I grabbed beers with coworkers she never liked. Reconnected with 2 college friends I hadn't seen since the wedding. Even started cooking again. Actual meals, not just frozen pizza and cereal. I found opinions I'd buried. Music I liked that she used to roll her eyes at. Shirts I stopped wearing because she said they made me look like a teenager. It was weird, the little freedoms. Stuff I didn't realize I'd given up. When the divorce was finalized, I got an email confirming the court had signed off. I read it twice and just sat there. No adrenaline. No breakdown. Just stillness. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel broken. I just felt done. It was like finishing a book you didn't enjoy but had to read anyway. Relieved to close it. Knowing you didn't have to keep flipping pages hoping it'd get better. Her solo trip, that little vacation she disappeared on. That was the best thing she ever did for me. Even if she didn't mean it that way. She thought she was taking space to figure things out. All she did was give me the room I needed to walk away. People ask if I regret it. If I miss being married. If I miss her. And yeah, some days, I miss the version of us that felt possible in the beginning. The Sunday mornings. The shared grocery lists. The stupid inside jokes that only worked when we still liked each other. I miss the hope. The plans. The part of me that thought forever was real. But I don't miss begging for attention. I don't miss sleeping next to someone who felt like a stranger. I don't miss shrinking myself just to avoid setting her off. There's a kind of loneliness that hits harder when you're not alone. I lived in that space for too long. She had to leave to realize she wanted to come back. I had to let go to realize I was already free. People say divorce means failure. I don't see it that way anymore. It means you were honest enough to stop pretending. To admit that trying isn't the same thing as fixing. That love can be real and still not survive. Some things can't be saved, not because you didn't fight, but because the other person stopped showing up to the fight a long time ago. She needed space. I needed respect. She took hers without asking. Left a note like I was a neighbor watching her mail. So I took mine the same way. No announcement. No argument. Just gone. And when she came home, she found the same house. Same couch. Same fridge magnets. Same silence. Just without me in it. And that's how it ends. What do you think? Was Cooper wrong for not giving her a second chance after the trip? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this.